Well, we're ready.
I'm getting ready. I'm getting so ready.
Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet?
Not yet.
How about now?
Now I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm John, and tonight I want answers about Acadia and expulsion of George Santos. There's no stopping us now because we're not live tonight.
We're alive.
We are
I'm alive. You're alive.
Well, we're live.
I'm John Thompson.
I'm John A. Vink.
I'm Keith Stattenfield.
I'm Loretta Beavers.
I'm AJ Minnick.
I'm Jennifer Sim.
I'm Bobby Chastain. These stories tonight on John Wants Answers.
John wants answers. John wants answers. Give John answers. Give John answers. John wants answers. John wants answers. Give John answers now.
Check your calendar. If it says December, 14, then we did a show and you watched it the same day. But we're not live. I'm told there's technical difficulties and we're not live tonight.
We blame Mark Zuckerberg. This is a plot
Could
by,
be.
by the Zuckster
Uh-huh.
to keep the American population from learning about the important story of the former residents of, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Acadia.
I think Acadia is right. I think.
Acadia.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, it's a big conspiracy.
Yeah.
I mean, they fought a war and they lost the war. Why should they be remembered? But we'll get to that later.
I don't know. Yeah. To heck with them.
Yeah.
To heck with them. New topic.
New topic. Well, first we have old business.
Oh, do we?
Actually, we have new business. I'm going to do
This.
the new business
It's
first.
a good thing this show's not live. People's fingers would be on the Twitter button right now, just sending
Very
in.
good. You
complaints.
suck.
Well,
Tweet.
yeah.
We get that a lot anyways.
Well, you get that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't look at Twitter anymore.
Anyways, the big news for this month is we have a new affiliate. It's the Athol Orange Community Television in Athol, Massachusetts.
Maybe like 3/4 of our affiliates are in Massachusetts.
No, I'd say like
We should-
90%.
We should learn to pronounce that state.
When you say we, you
correctly.
mean me, right?
Well, I'm not good at it either. Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
There's too many S's in it.
Okay, so I don't know if you can see the before and after, but there's another star in the Massachusetts section of the map.
Can I talk to the graphics guys? Maybe yellow's not the right color.
What color
Maybe-
should we have?
Something that stands out.
Like red?
Yeah, like red would work. Red
Okay.
would stand out. Like yellow is like the least.
That's gonna be a lot of work to change all these yellows to red.
Is it?
I gotta like do it individually, I think, for each one. It's not like a linked graphic or anything. It's like
Oh, you should. You're good at that though. Like the Google Maps API, and just have like a.
that's just a Photoshop
like a
document. where I add
CSV
a
file
star
of a bunch of
on a new-
addresses, and you would just run some JSON something.
Okay. I
and
think
it
you're
would-
over engineering this. This is a Photoshop document right now. Are you saying I have time on my hands?
You don't have a job. I mean,
Yeah.
you should learn JavaScript or something.
Well, I have learned JavaScript.
Well, then use it for God's sakes.
You should go to johnwantsanswers.com and see your
Is
Other
that
episodes.
map up on John Wants Answers?
no,
Oh,
it's
could
not.
be. If
It could be. It could be.
It could be like a live.
By the time
thing.
they go to johnwantsanswers.com, it could be there.
Wow, it could.
Yeah.
Is it going to be?
Probably not.
No, it's not. No.
Next, you have old business.
Old business.
So every month I've been asking you this. Has Donald Trump been indicted on anything new since our last
I don't
show?
believe he has.
Okay. I think the first month.
I mean, he's got a case pending before the Supreme Court now
And what's the case about?
about whether presidential immunity extends to the actions on January 6th, and therefore he is unable to be tried at all
I don't think that's
in
true.
the court in Washington, D.C.
I don't think inciting a riot is in his duties of being president of the
Oh,
United
you'd be
States.
surprised. There's a lot. Well, no. I mean, it's not in his technical duties.
Yes.
But, we let presidents get away with a lot of stuff.
This one for sure.
This one, yeah, that one we let get away with a lot of stuff.
Also, I guess in old news, we were going to have a show last month.
We were.
And I showed up
Well,
here.
you were going to have a show
Yes.
last month.
I showed up here to the station, And around 9:20, I'm like, I wonder where Keith is.
Yeah.
I look at Find My Friends,
Yeah.
and you are nowhere near here.
No, I think
It's like
I
you're
was
not
in,
on the way. You were like in Napa or something.
Yeah, I was still not in Napa. I was in like.
So I texted you, are you coming to the show? Well, I
And-
kind of knew the answer because you were so
Yeah,
far
I was,
away.
yeah, you were like Keith's phone is in Napa.
Yeah.
Maybe someone stole Keith's phone and he's just a little late getting to the studio.
And he wouldn't answer my phone. Every time I called you on the phone, straight to voicemail every time.
Oh, well, that's.
And then you had a message on your voicemail saying, I don't know you, so go away. Kind of, which
I
was
don't
it.
think that's always. My voicemail says, if you don't leave a message, I'm never going to call you back.
Well, yeah.
Because I don't answer my phone most of the time. Because
Mm-hmm.
if my phone rings, it is almost guaranteed to be a spam.
Yeah. Anyway, so you had told me a month earlier you couldn't
had.
make it.
I had.
And I had totally forgotten
Yeah.
because it's been a month.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So I showed up here and you didn't.
I didn't.
So we had a rerun. We just showed last
That was
month.
sad. Yeah.
But anyways, if we had
Maybe
a show,
that's why Zuckerberg has turned off our live broadcasting permissions.
he was.
Maybe I did it.
Waiting
Maybe
for a
it's
new
still-
show.
No, I don't think it's my fault.
So last month I would have asked you about the Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
Our first topic, Speaker of the House. Who's the new Speaker of the House?
That's this guy named Mike Johnson.
And is he a regular guy or a right-wing freak?
More the latter.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. Kind of a right-wing Christian fascist geek.
Okay.
The northern tundra is the home of one of the most powerful and beautiful members of the owl family, the snowy owl. The female is not as brilliant white as the male. Her plumage is barred and makes her less conspicuous against the tundra. The snowy owl's major source of food is the lemming. The availability of the lemming has a major effect on the owl population. She lays her eggs in a dent in the ground, which she scrapes herself. Incubation starts as soon as the first egg is laid. So the chicks hatch one after another, and there can be quite a difference in size between the oldest and the youngest. Striking features of the snowy owl are the feathery legs. Even the claws are covered with dense white feathers, and the large yellow eyes with their composed stare. For more information about the snowy owl, why not contact the Canadian Wildlife Service in Ottawa?
Do you remember the Acadians?
No.
Our next topic, Acadian Remembrance Day. Yesterday was Acadian Remembrance Day,
Well, I forgot.
and it sounds like you forgot all about them.
Aren't they Canadian?
Kind of yes, kind
Like
of
the
no.
vast majority are Canadian. The rest of them lived in
Well-
what we now call Maine.
It was Maine and a part of Canada,
Yeah.
and they kind of got deported around the world.
Yeah.
Some went to Louisiana,
Louisiana. Yeah, yeah.
which was speak French there, and
Well, that's not the only reason.
and also bought Louisiana from France.
Yeah. I mean, there were other French people there already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so Acadia was kind of New France.
Yeah.
And it was
well,
like
yeah,
in
France.
Maine, and it was like New Brunswick, Nova Scotia,
Yeah.
Prince Edward. So
Because the French were like, when we get to the New World, we're going to settle someplace that's cold and only has fish,
yes,
where you can't grow grapes.
exactly.
And
So
then
they
the
succeeded
British
in
were
that.
like, get out. And the French were like, thank God. We're going to go somewhere warm where there's
Mm-hmm.
jazz and delicious stew.
Delicious stew.
Yeah, yeah, they make like the gumbo.
Oh, I heard that their culture is Cajun.
Well, now, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Back then it was just French.
It was during the 7 Years' War that the British officers suspected that the Acadians were aligned with France.
Yeah,
And like
well-
France and England were kind of fighting
They were-
in North America for Canada.
Yeah, they were fighting everywhere for,
Yeah.
they were fighting everywhere. Not for Canada everywhere.
So they got deported.
They got kicked
And-
out.
Do you remember Beyonce?
I've heard the name.
She's Acadian.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, from Canada?
Well, she's not from Canada, but her ancestors are Acadian from Canada.
But like the Acadians were from France.
Well, from France
so we
first.
could say she's French.
Well, we could say we're European.
We do say we're European.
Oh, okay. In that case, yes.
Yeah, I mean this whole where you're from thing. Like you get to say you're from where your parents were from, or maybe your grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. After that, you're from
I don't know.
where you are.
I say I'm from Canada because I was born in Canada, but
Yeah.
my parents were born in the Netherlands.
Yeah. So you don't say you're Netherlandian.
No, I don't say I'm Dutch. Correct.
I think Netherlandian is
It's
appropriate.
incorrect. It's incorrect.
The polar bear, one of the largest of all bears, is a nomad of the Arctic pack ice. Expert divers and swimmers, they've been seen swimming 200 miles from land. Their favorite food is seal. Their coat is made up of long guard hairs and dense underfur, which, along with a thick layer of fat, keeps out the cold and helps to keep them buoyant. Usually 2 cubs are born in December or January. They're tiny at birth, weighing no more than 1.5 pounds. They usually remain with their mother at least 2.5 years. Important to the Eskimo culture and prized for its luxurious coat, the polar bear is being carefully managed in Canada. For more information on the polar bear, why not contact the Canadian Wildlife Service in Ottawa?
So we move on from people who are trying to remember to people who are trying to forget. Next, Expulsion of George Santos. Man, we're just moving through the topics
flying.
tonight.
First of all, you've got to say former Congressman George Santos
Okay.
or Congressman George Santos. Like you got to have the title in there.
Even though he's no longer
Well,
congressman?
the former would indicate that.
Okay.
You know, just so that everyone knows which George Santos you're talking about.
Are there more George
Was there a
Santos?
George Santos on the Seinfeld show?
That's George Costanza.
Ah, who pays attention to last names?
Okay. So he was expelled
He was.
from Congress.
He was.
Who else has been expelled from Congress?
I think 5 other guys.
Uh-huh.
Trafficant. There was this Democrat in the 90s that was like really, really corrupt.
In the 1990s?
And had, yeah,
Oh,
and
okay.
had amazingly bad hair. And everyone knew he was corrupt, and he kept getting reelected. And then eventually they were like, "Oh yeah, you got to leave." And then he went to prison.
Oh, went straight from Congress to prison?
I think it might have been the other way around. I think like he might have been sentenced to prison and then expelled from Congress. I don't remember the order, but it was the two happened, I believe, close to each other.
Isn't it true that a sitting congressman can't be arrested?
You can't be charged for a federal crime
Okay.
while Congress is in session, but I don't know if that counts for state crimes.
Oh. So did he go
Fabulously corrupt.
away for state crimes?
I believe he did.
Okay. Now, George Santos has been indicted.
Yeah, lots
that-
of counts.
Is that in the state or federal?
I believe many of them are federal, but they might be state.
Okay. Did they have to wait until he was no longer a congressman to arrest him?
I don't even know if he's ever been arrested.
But he's been indicted.
Yeah, you can be indicted without being arrested.
How does that work? What's the point?
Well, the indictment is you got to show up to court.
Yeah. Is that
The
part of
rest
the
is
arresting?
we're going to take you to jail so that we know you are.
I mean, every time that Donald Trump was indicted, he was also arrested.
I've only been arrested once.
Twice.
No, that trial in Georgia was the only time he's ever been arrested.
I feel like these are not true facts.
Well, time will tell. If we were live, someone would tweet in an answer
Yeah.
because they can check Google
Um,
or Bing. What do you use? Do you use Google? Do
I
you
use
Bing?
Google. I've
been doing a lot of the DuckDuckGo lately.
You using DuckDuckGo?
Yeah.
Are all your results like have quack quack at the end or something?
No, they're like a lot of them are good, and there's fewer ads in front of them.
Okay. That's because no one knows who they are, so they have no advertisers.
I don't think that's true.
Okay.
I just think they don't have as good of an ad department.
What is the process for expelling a congressman?
You have a vote in Congress?
Oh, is it first? Does someone have to put a motion? Say, I motion to expel this guy?
There's probably a step before that.
Okay.
But I think one of the important steps necessary is I move we expel that guy.
Okay.
And then you can have a little back and forth between the pro and the con.
Uh-huh.
And the pro side gets up and makes some speeches. And the con side is a New York congressman with crazy ass glasses who just tries to be snarky.
Was he
and then
the
he calls
only-
up his no he had some defenders
Okay.
that also were like, this is terrible, we shouldn't be expelling people for being criminals, this place will be empty.
Right.
And there's a back and forth and a back and forth, and then you have a vote.
Yes.
And if 2/3 of your fellow members vote to expel you, and you get to vote on your own expulsion.
Okay.
So that's one no.
Yeah.
You're guaranteed to have at least one in the no column, probably.
It's 435 votes in total, right?
Well, if they were all,
If they're all present and voting.
if they're all seated, right? There are some vacant seats
Oh,
in
yes.
Congress.
So I guess the vote.
So it's 2/3 of, it's possibly 2/3 of those present.
Uh-huh. Okay. So how many votes did this guy get?
More than 2/3.
More than 2/3. Do we know?
Like a little less than half the Republicans voted to expel him, and all the Democrats.
All Democrats. Okay.
Yeah. So
And half
roughly half plus
the Republicans
probably
and
75% to expel him.
so is it similar process to not seating a new congressperson?
I don't exactly know whether that's. I don't think you need 2/3 to seat a congressperson. I mean, in theory, Congress just has one big vote at the beginning of the session.
Uh-huh.
Let's accept this slate of members that the states have sent us.
But that's usually when there's no scandals
Yeah.
or reason to think
Yeah.
you have to vote one out.
Yeah. Like, I can't think of a time in recent history when any congressperson hasn't been seated.
So at the time they're seating,
And I just said that, but Al Franken had his, I mean, this was the Senate, not the House. Al Franken had his delayed by months
there's like a recount
over
going on.
Norm, Coleman?
There's a very close vote, right?
It was a very close vote, and Franken won, and Norm Coleman was filing cases in the Minnesota courts to try to overturn the election, and the Senate didn't vote, didn't allow either one of them to be seated
Oh,
for some months,
okay.
which is one of the reasons. I mean,
So when
various
did,
bits of legislation had to be delayed quite a bit because the
they didn't have enough votes.
margin was very close in the Senate at the time, and they needed his vote. And I think Kennedy passed away that same year. And then we got Scott, what's his name, from Massachusetts.
So at the time when they were trying to seat him,
Unseat him.
or no, when they first were seating him,
Yeah.
did they already know he had lied about his past, or is that information wasn't known?
He was not expected to win his election, and his election was close, not terribly close. I mean, I don't think there was ever the implication that he did not get a majority of the votes in his district. But after he kind of won in a surprise, and even before the election, some of the local newspapers had started to look into his background and said things like, this guy has lied about a huge amount of his background.
Right.
And this guy has had various financial scammy things in his history. I don't believe a lot of the stuff that has since come out, like how he lied about how much money he put into his campaign by a factor of 50,
Okay.
and how he, stole money from a GoFundMe to help
Yeah.
get a vet's dog to a veterinarian.
Did he commit more crimes after he got to Congress? Is that how come he was indicted for more things? Or the old things he was indicted for?
I don't know that. I mean, I believe the indictment is all things that relate to his election. Now,
okay.
some of those are, lying on forms that you have to file. And some of those forms you have to file before the election, and some of them you have to file after the election. And so, to the extent some of the indictments are you lied on this final financial form, that was after he was elected, possibly before he was seated. He has lied on financial forms he has filed over his time in Congress. But I think most of the indictment involves things that were done during the election period.
Okay. So what kind of pushed Congress to decide now's the time we need to get rid of this guy?
Well, overall, I think, the Democrats were largely probably going to vote to expel him, just based on, if the Democrats could have had a vote 4 weeks into the session, they probably would have said, we're already aware of enough crimes that this guy is very reasonably accused of doing. We should kick him out so that he doesn't continue
Taint
to
the
do bad
reputation
things,
of the Congress.
and so that that district can have an election and get a representative that can serve them and not be a criminal. On the Republican side, I think it just looks really bad for them if they are voting to keep someone who is clearly not terribly ethical or whatever in the caucus, because it reflects poorly on them. Many of the other Republicans in New York State were some of the very vocal, we need to expel this guy folks, because, they get pushback in New York, which is a bluer state than a lot of other places, and they just kept getting asked questions about, like, why are you supporting this guy down on Long Island? He's clearly a criminal, and they were finding it was hard for them to say why we should vote Republicans into Congress when it appears, when they didn't want the implication that Republicans were supportive of criminals. And Santos is a divisive figure. No one seemed to quite like him. He was snarky and he said mean things about people. And
Does the governor of New York get to appoint a new congressperson?
they don't. Members of the House must be elected.
So in the Senate, they get appointed.
Senators can be appointed, because originally senators weren't elected.
Oh.
Originally, senators were selected by state legislators.
Oh, okay.
And that changed with one of the constitutional amendments that changed them to be directly elected. But the House is supposed to be the people's house, and therefore everyone in the people's house is selected by an election in their district, and you can't appoint when there's a vacancy.
Okay. So
And
now that's
so most states have rules that require them to pretty quickly call elections when there is a vacancy.
has a new
which
election
is-
been called? Yet?
I believe it has. The governor had like 7 days to call an election, and I think it's been 9 days since he was expelled. So I'm almost certain the election's been called. I've heard, there's 2 elections. There's a primary and the actual election. The
Okay.
dates for those, I believe, have been set in New York. There are declared candidates, I believe, from both parties.
Can Santos run for re-election?
I believe he can.
And if he gets elected, the whole thing can start over again? They can just expel him or not seat him?
They could expel him. I mean, yes.
If they don't seat him, could then they have another election and could he still run? Like, could we have an infinite loop here?
I believe. I mean, there are these weird rules of what are the qualifications to be elected to Congress and to the presidency. And I think the only qualifications to be on the ballot and elected to the House are you must be a citizen of the United States, you must be an adult, you must be at least X years of age.
35 or?
35 is president. I think
Yeah.
House member is even lower.
Oh.
I think we
21?
have 26-year-old House members. It might be 25. It's not 21. It's not 18.
Okay.
It's a little higher than that. And you must. Well, you don't even have to live in your district. Although I believe you must be registered to vote. You must be a registered voter in the district you are.
How can you be registered to vote if you don't live there?
Well, the you don't live there part is because, especially longer ago, if you were going to be a congressman, since you could not feasibly travel from Washington, D.C. to the state of Iowa if you were representing Iowa in less than a week or two minimum. And so they, plenty of congressmen got houses in Washington, D.C. and essentially
they
lived there
They
full
lived in
time,
Washington. Okay.
but continued to represent, their district.
Right.
There are, to this day, California congressmen that have a house in California where they and their family live, which is not in their district, because it's not required that you live in your district.
Okay.
Now, it's a little harder to be elected if you don't live in your district, because your constituents kind of stare at you like,
Who's this guy?
you're representing the Central Valley, but you live in Hollywood.
You don't have an accent like we do.
Yeah.
What was your college political party's name?
Bob Caston School of Driving.
Now, why is that funny?
That was funny for about 3 weeks.
Oh, very short term.
We had a senator in Wisconsin, Senator Bob Caston, who one night in Washington, D.C. was picked up by the Capitol Police while driving erratically. And they tested his blood alcohol level, and it was above the
0.8
limit.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was 0.1 or 0.8 at the time. It was probably 0.08 because it was when I was in college and we had raised it by then. And then nothing happened because, again, you cannot arrest a member of Congress. And they just pled out through the diversion process that the House had. If he had not been a senator, likely a first DUI conviction would not have been considered a misdemeanor or a felony. Today, in some places, that is an actual, even your first DUI is a crime you can go to jail for a serious amount of time. And so the guy that founded the political party thought this was hilarious and called it the Bob Caston School of Driving. And then we were explaining that forever.
Yes.
Because no one remembered.
Even at the time, was it big news? Like,
It wasn't big news, but it was news.
okay. That's all the time we have.
It is, yeah.
So hopefully we'll see you next month.
Or
If
it
we
might
don't-
be this month. I mean, we don't know when this show is going to air.
This show is going to YouTube tonight.
Wow.
So there are people who can watch it on December
Live.
14th.
You can watch it live-ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like hour delayed.
I'm not going to watch it tonight.
You're not?
I'm going to go home and go to bed. I'm tired.
Oh.
It's been a long day. I just get up early and go
Sucker.
to work. You remember